Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jeremy Crow. I have been an occultist for over 30 years now. I began seriously when I was 17 and I am now 47. I have been considering myself a Luciferian for over 25 of those years, and still to this day, of course, do consider myself a Luciferian. And I wanted to open up this evening for an Ask Me Anything. So we can talk about whatever you like to talk about. Just leave it in the chat and we can cover it. Oh, I'm hearing some fireworks outside. It's quite a bit past Canada Day, so maybe some people are just using up their leftover fireworks. Let's see here. Beyond Zebra, howdy. Welcome. My cat just coughed and it sounded so much like a person I nearly jumped out of my skin. That's funny. Yeah, cats can make some really interesting sounds, can't they? One of my cats, I have two. One of them, in the evenings, after we've all gone to bed, he'll start making these, we call them yodeling sounds, and it's pretty funny. But one of the things that I've been doing, and I'll do it on this one as well, is I like to do a little divination to start off the live stream. And what I've been using lately has been the Tao Te Ching, and this is my copy. And I'll just flick through it and do a bibliomancy. I'll just stop on a random page and I'll read the chapter of the Tao Te Ching that we land on. So let me see what we get tonight. All right, chapter 60 this evening, and this is a short one, it looks like. Ruling a big country is like cooking a small fish. You have to handle it with care. If a sage uses the Tao, then evil forces have no power. He doesn't harm people either. Through Te, you see, we have harmony. Now, Te is from the Tao Te Ching. That part of the title, the word in English would be virtue. So when it says through Te, it means through virtue. You see, we have harmony. Interesting. I'll have to think about that one. Does anybody resonate with that particular one? Oh, wow. Okay. Indiana, USA, Obelisk, NOL said M80 and then gave 2 super chats. One $5 with a dancing guy. Thank you so much. And then another one followed right up, another one for $20. Great. And that actually was the goal that we had this evening, to do one super chat that was at least $20. And I said that I would reveal an item that represents Lucifer on my personal altar. So we'll do that. And I have it right here ready. So are you guys ready for the big reveal? This is a very important piece on my altar, actually, so I'm sharing this with you. So this is a glass figurine of a rooster, and this has been on my altar for a very long time. I can't even remember how long I've had that there, and to be honest, I can't even remember how I got this. But this is the rooster that I have on my altar, and right now he is sitting on a deck of tarot cards, the Hermetic Tarot that I have on my desk right now, that I had in preparation for this live stream. So thank you Indiana, USA obelisk, NOL. I really appreciate that. And now people got to see the altar item that I use to represent Lucifer on my altar. This is my glass rooster that represents Lucifer. And Beyond Zebra said yes. So the reason that I use a rooster is because of one of the reasons why I realized that I was a Luciferian in the first place. Now, this would be through experiencing some of the symbolism that I encountered when I was going through a Masonic order. It was actually a co-Masonic order, so people who are regular or mainstream Freemasons would probably recognize it as fringe Masonry or clandestine Masonry. But the reason that I had joined that particular branch of Freemasonry is because they were explicitly esoterically oriented or focused, whereas the mainstream Freemasonic lodges, often they didn't focus too much or at all on the esoteric meaning of the symbols encountered in the Masonic rituals. And the main reason that I wanted to join Freemasonry in the first place was because I was attracted to the ritual and the symbolism of the ritual and the ceremonies within that order and that tradition. And so if I was to join a mainstream order, it would not be something that I would have been able to openly discuss. And I would have had to try and find one or two, if I was lucky, other members who were also interested in that aspect of Freemasonry. I wasn't in it to try and network. I wasn't in it to try and do charity works. The reason that I was attracted to Freemasonry back then was because I was interested in the symbolism, the lessons, the esoteric aspect of the rituals, etc. And so that's why I ended up joining an esoteric order that worked the Freemasonic rituals. And it was in the very first ritual, the Entered Apprentice degree, that I encountered a rooster. And a rooster was sitting on the desk that I was placed in front of in the Chamber of Reflections, along with some other symbolism, including, I believe there was a mirror, there was an hourglass, and I was given a sheet of paper and I was asked to write out my will. And that was before I got to enter into the actual temple and go through the ceremony of initiation into the Entered Apprentice or first degree of Freemasonry. And for a long time, I contemplated what that could mean. And I went through the second degree and the third degree, and in both of those rituals, there were also symbols that kind of stuck out at me and resonated with me in such a way that ultimately I eventually came to realize in a flash of insight that what the word Lucifer meant, and that I was a Luciferian myself. And I thought back to the rooster that was in that Chamber of Reflections, and I thought about it, and it was a symbol of Lucifer to me personally. Now, each individual can interpret the symbols of Freemasonry in their own way, and often in the Freemasonic rituals, you will be told a very surface level explanation of some of the symbols that you encounter, but not all of them. And it's up to you to delve deeper into the deeper meaning beyond just the surface level that is explained to you in the ritual. And or even just to get even to that surface level meaning that wasn't even explained about certain symbols. And the rooster was not explained at all. And I thought about it, and what is one of the most iconic aspects or virtues of a rooster? It's crowing at dawn, right? Or as the sun is rising. In essence, it is calling forth or declaring or heralding the rising of the sun. It is calling forth, symbolically calling forth the light. And what does the word Lucifer mean? The word Lucifer is the bringer of light, or the light bearer, or, literally the carrier of the light. And there's other reasons as well. In Christian folklore, Lucifer had pride, and the rooster is also associated with pride and, cocksure, being cocky, strutting about like a rooster, that sort of thing, right? Here comes the rooster, one of them in the chat. And even there's even a passage in the Bible where Jesus tells Peter, his disciple Peter, that before the cock crows 3 times, he will betray him. And then later, and he was like, no, I would never. And then later, they're asked, Jesus is being persecuted, and they find Peter, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, aren't you one of those guys that hangs out with Jesus? And he was like, what, me? No. And they're like, yeah, I think you are. I've seen you with him. And they're like, what? No, I don't hang out with him. And they're like, are you sure? And he's like, no, I don't. It's not me. And so after he denies Jesus 3 times, then he hears a cock crowing 3 times. Something like that, anyways. And then he realizes, oh, wow, it's a moment of epiphany for him. It's a he sees the light, in a sense, where he is illuminated. He becomes aware. He becomes lucid of the fact that, oh, I did, he was right. I did end up betraying him, or denying him at least. And so there's a bunch of symbolism about the rooster, and it's not just biblical, and it's not just connected to Christian folklore, but the inherent meaning of a rooster is tied to that bringing forth the light. And if you look at the word Lucifer and the way that it has been used in history, the original usage, it's a Latin word. The Romans originally used that word to refer to the planet Venus when it was the last bright object in the sky, other than the moon, that could be visible before the sun rose. And they would call that Lucifer, because it would kind of herald the rising of the sun. It would bring the light, in a sense. And people would also refer to it as the morning star, because it's a very star-like object, right? When you look up in the sky, you wouldn't immediately realize that it was a planet necessarily, unless you are very familiar with it. I look at it all the time. And actually, when I was a child, my mother taught me to make a wish on Venus, which she didn't know was a planet when she was telling me this. But what she told me was that in the evening, actually, it's an evening star in that instance, but it's still the planet Venus, where the first bright object that appears at night, and this is kind of the dual nature, the yin yang of the morning star and the evening star, which is the same entity, and ultimately it's what the Romans referred to as Lucifer. She said that the first and brightest star that shows up in the night, when you see it, you can say, "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have this wish I wish tonight." And then you would silently think what your wish is. And most of the time I would just wish for luck or something like that, because I didn't have a very specific intention in mind, but I would see it and I'd be like, "Oh, cool," and I would make that wish. Oh, thanks, Indiana USA Obelisk NOL has been. I see 2 more super chats. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and if you want to support this channel, we are open for. I do have the ability to accept super chats, as you see, but if you don't have the ability to support the channel financially, that's totally fine. One of the things you can do is you can click like on this video, and that is a big support on this channel as well. And I really appreciate if you do that. Subscribing is good too, but hitting that like button is the number one non-monetary thing that you could do to support the channel, other than a super chat. Also, I wanted to mention before I go further that after this live stream, there's going to be a private members meeting for members of the Novus Ordo Luciferi, and that is something that you can join if you'd like. Anybody who's watching this can join. And there's a link in the description of this video to the Patreon page for the NOL, and it's just $5 a month, and that unlocks a post that will give you that link to the meeting for tonight and any future meeting as well as you go forward. If you remain a member, you'll get these notifications for the public live stream like we're having right now, as well as the private meetings. Some of them are casual meetings, like tonight it'll just be a casual unstructured meeting, but also sometimes we do more structured lessons and other types of learning or teaching sessions where knowledge is shared and teachings are given, and those are recorded and put into the archive for members. And if you join, you get access to that full archive of recorded lessons as well. So just for $5, you'll get access to that. And I think at this point we have over 45 hours worth of material, including a very in-depth lucid dreaming and astral projection course, a course on tarot. There's a course on the new Luciferian era calendar, a bunch of different things like that. So if you're interested in that, and it's another way that you can support the channel as well and get access to exclusive content by going to that Patreon link in the description and signing up there. Amy has a comment here. Abraxas came to mind in relation to the rooster as well. Yes, so exactly. So that's another one, and I'm glad you brought that up. Abraxas, you may be familiar with the image if you have if you study the occult or esotericism, you may have come across this image, and sometimes it'll have been found on a coin or a medallion or talisman, really, actually, is what it was on. And this image has the body of a Roman soldier, with the Roman soldier typical armor and garb. In one hand, there is a flail, like a type of whip, and the other one is a shield. The legs, instead of legs, it has two serpents or snakes, a snake for each leg, and the head is the head of a rooster. And you may be thinking, oh, that's quite a bizarre image. What could that possibly mean? Well, the rooster being the head is representative of the lucidity, the awareness, that illumination, that the rooster is a representation of the dawning of awareness. Light, since time immemorial, has been used as a symbol of knowledge and awareness. The light of truth, illumination, enlightenment, all these words, lucidity, all these words represent the truth, knowledge, awareness, that sort of thing. And so this composite character, or this composite entity that is made up with a rooster head, it's guided by the rooster, or by that force of enlightenment, by the knowledge and awareness of truth. And the serpents being the legs, we can get into that as well a little bit, but that is the motive force, or the energy that moves it forward. And serpents or snakes are very complex and deep symbolical creatures, you could say. It's a symbol, and a serpent typically, it goes into a hole, right? It lives underground, and it can represent the subconscious mind. Often the serpent represents wisdom as well, which is a little bit different than knowledge. There's a subtle difference there. Knowledge is more like information and awareness of, and the lack of ignorance, whereas wisdom is, how do I word this? It's like the understanding of the implications of that knowledge. So you can have knowledge, but you may not fully get the implications of it, and the cunning, I guess, or skill to utilize it properly. The serpent represents that wisdom, that wisdom, and it represents the unconscious or subconscious mind. And you see it utilized in a lot of mythology. You see it used in a lot of folklore for various different things, including healing, including what else? Resurrection, because it sheds its skin. So Abraxas is a very interesting and complex amalgam, and it's a figure that's deeply inspiring to me. And in some cases, it's seen as a type of demiurgic character, which is related to Gnosticism, if you're familiar with that. And I consider myself a Gnostic Luciferian. And I see the figure of Abraxas as almost like an idealized or awakened form of the demiurge, rather than the diluted version of the demiurge. So it's like an aspirational type figure, in a sense, to me at least. That's the way I interpret it. And the Roman soldier, we can get into that as well if you'd like. But the armor, it's a battle in a sense where it's not just you have to um, be disciplined. The whip represents discipline. The shield represents insulating yourself against forces that could distract or derail you, in a sense. So there's a lot of deep symbolism in the Abraxas figure. Actually, I met Abraxas one time in a dream, and it was a lucid dream. And I can tell you about that a bit. Actually, I see Indiana USA Obelisk NOL sent another super chat. Thank you so much for all your support. I do really appreciate those super chats. So I did meet Abraxas one time in a lucid dream, and it was unexpected. I didn't call Abraxas or anything like that. And what happened was, in the dream, I'm walking down a city street. I'm walking on the sidewalk in a city, and I'm with a friend of mine that I'd known for quite a while, and his name is Eugene, or Gene. I called him a lot of the time. Anyways, I'm there with Eugene. We're walking down the sidewalk, and I know that it's a dream, but I'm just kind of going along. I'm not actively changing anything or any of that. I'm just kind of seeing how it goes. Sometimes I'll do that when I become lucid in a dream. And if you're not sure what I mean by lucid in a dream, that means that a lucid dream is when you are dreaming, you're asleep and you're dreaming, and you recognize, you are aware that you are dreaming, and you remain in the dream. Typically, it's still a lucid dream if you realize you're a dream and then immediately wake up, but it's just a very short lucid dream. This, I was still in the dream and I knew that it was a dream, and I just let it kind of unfold as it was going to unfold, instead of actively crafting the narrative and changing things and kind of experimenting, which sometimes I would do as well. But in this case, I had decided to just go with it and see what happened. And so I'm just walking along the sidewalk with my friend, and I know it's a dream, but I'm just walking along anyways. I'm just going with it. And I notice up ahead there is some strange figure. At first, I just thought it was a person, and then I realized, oh wait, no, that's a very large rooster, And I, for a second there, I thought maybe it was like a mascot or something, but then I realized, no, that's like an anthropomorphic rooster standing there. And it was only kind of vaguely anthropomorphic. It was the size of a regular human. It didn't have snake legs or Roman armor. It was just a rooster. The whole thing was a rooster. And as I'm walking towards it, I notice it's looking at me. And its eyes were not very rooster-like. They were human-like, and they were looking at me very intensely, observing me, and almost calling to me to look back. And so I'm maintaining eye contact with this man-sized rooster, and as I'm getting almost up to the rooster, because it was just standing there kind of on the side of the sidewalk, I realized, oh, this is Abraxas, I didn't recognize him at first because it wasn't the full image that I would have expected from Abraxas. It was just a full rooster, but I realized, oh, this is Abraxas. And as I approached, I decided I stopped in front of him, and I was at a loss of what to say. And so what I did is I decided I'll introduce my friend. And I said to Eugene, Eugene, this is Abraxas. Abraxas, this is Eugene. And my friend Eugene said, oh, hello. And you could tell he was feeling a little bit awkward, but he was just polite, and he went with it too, right? In the dream character, who was my friend Eugene. and I just stood there, not talking, and just kind of sharing eye contact with Abraxas, and just being comfortable in his presence. And then I woke up in that state, and I thought, wow, that was odd, but very cool. And I was pretty excited and jazzed up about it. And I never forgot it. I wrote it down in my dream journal, and but I would have remembered it anyways because it was so exciting to me. And it sounds very mundane, but it had a big impact on me. I thought it was a really cool and meaningful encounter. Indiana Obelisk said, I have a pet snake, but I'm scared of it due to the bad press. He's a really nice snake. I've handled snakes before, even ones that you're not really supposed to handle because they bite, like a green tree snake. I've handled. I've never actually gotten bitten by one, but my wife has. Let's see here. Any other comments? Oh, Hi Yael said hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, okay. Is there anything else that you'd like me to talk about or discuss? Maybe I'll pull a card out of the Thoth deck and see what comes up from that, and maybe that'll inspire me to go off on another topic or something. But the rooster topic, that was a good one. I really oh, and well, I was talking a lot about my experience with Freemasonry, and how I was a member of Freemasonry at the time when I realized that I was a Luciferian. Yesterday, I did a full live stream on the topic of the Luciferian Freemasonry connection. So if you wanted to dig into that a little bit more, there is a story that I talk about where I mention a symbol that I had asked the head of that order about, and that symbol was the rooster in the Chamber of Reflection. So if you go back and watch that live stream, and when you hear that story, that's what I was referring to. I don't explicitly say in that live stream yesterday what that symbol was, but that's what it was. It was the rooster from the Chamber of Reflections. Amy said, I'd say that was a very real encounter. Very cool. Yeah, it felt very powerful and real, even though there was some awkwardness, and I still felt very comfortable, even though it was a little odd and kind of quirky. But I felt comfortable, but I also felt excited, and I felt like a very powerful encounter. Knight of Cups we got here. I chose to use the Thoth deck this time because the last bunch of times that I had looked at a tarot deck on live stream, it was the Hermetic Tarot, and I have the Thoth deck here that I also really like. Knight of Cups, to the suit of cups is the element of water. And the way that I interpret the court cards in the tarot, the knight is the element of air. And so the Knight of Cups is the watery part of air, or the watery aspect of air. So that's something that I don't know if that resonates with anybody. Water would be like the emotions. It can also be the etheric body. It can be the form that, or the blueprint that manifests into the physical, or the step before manifestation in as a it's an element of, it's one of the three principal elements that make up the fourth element of earth. If you are interested in alchemy, that's kind of how that works out. Water, fire, and air come together. Those are the three principal elements. They come together to form the fourth element, which is a composite element, and that composite element is earth. And then if you reverse engineer it, if you take earth, reverse engineer it back into the three principal elements that it's composed of, separate out each of those three principal elements, and heal, refine each one of those, and then recombine them, then that when they recombine in a refined state that has been healed, they integrate. Those three principal elements integrate so closely and so perfectly that it forms a new resurrected earth that is so different than the original earth that it had come from, that it's referred to not as earth, but it's referred to as the fifth element, or literally the quintessence, which just means fifth element. And that is the goal of alchemy. The process of alchemy is to take earth, reverse engineer it back into the three principal elements, refine or heal each one of those elements, recombine them, and it forms the element of, or the fifth element, which is also a composite element like earth. It's like a resurrected earth, but perfected. Anonymous Boss, welcome. I see 2 super chats from you. Thank you so much for your support of the channel and what I'm doing here. Let's see here. What's up, Jeremy and chat? How are you doing? Wanted to share my other lucid dream. I was taken to meet a very famous hip-hop artist, and he was surrounded with 10 black-caped entities. I could see him because I was behind the people surrounding him. One more thing. Jeremy, I felt Valak's presence a second ago just when I hopped on your channel. Is Valak an easy entity to work with? That's an entity that I haven't personally had any encounters with. I have had encounters with, a fair bit of different entities, but Valak is not one of them that I personally have experience with. I told you a bit about my encounter with Beelzebub at one point. In this video, I was mentioning an encounter I had with Abraxas, but Valak is not one that I personally have an encounter with, at least consciously. So that's interesting about the hip-hop artist, and that they were surrounded by 10 black-caped entities. So that is interesting. Now, a black-caped entity, one of the first things that come to mind with that would be like a type of a shadowy figure, clearly. Now, the most iconic black-caped entity would have to be Death, right? And 10 is a number in the decimal system that we use as standard, our standard numbering system. as the next order. It's like the threshold from a single digit number to a two-digit number. It's like the first column in the numbering system is filled up and it's spilled into the next column. It's a higher order of things. And 10 also in numerology, it often represents manifestation, physical manifestation. So I'm not sure if any of those resonate with you and related in relation to the dream that you had. Yeah, so yeah, there's some interesting things going on there. That's, just from the little snippet of description that you've given. But I'm wondering if any of those things resonate with you. Indiana Obelisk said, I ground myself in Leviathan's water. Now, Leviathan is an entity that I have had a personal encounter with as well. It's a very powerful entity, that's for sure. Anonymous Boss said, yes, he was surrounded with about 10 caped entities. I could not see their faces. There was an energy blocking me from getting close to artists. They were chanting something I could not hear. Interesting. So you were being blocked from the famous hip hop artist, that from these entities were blocking you from that. So I'm just thinking here what the hip hop artist could represent to you, because dream interpretation, there is a certain amount that you can do based off of kind of the collective unconscious and the archetypes that exist within that, but ultimately it ends up being very personal as well. So you can kind of give some generalizations, but ultimately you have to kind of explore what it means to you personally. So could that mean a striving toward recognition, or the recognition of skill and talent that a famous hip hop artist could represent, and these entities, or you feel some sort of gatekeeping, maybe that you're being blocked from that in some way, that there's some obstacle. And what I would say is that these are aspects of your own shadow that are blocking you from that level of attainment. And these are representative of things that you have within your psyche that are unresolved and not properly integrated. Just like when I was talking about the alchemy, that the three principal elements need to be separated out, identified, understood, refined, and healed, and then reintegrated into the whole. And so that's a task that I feel that you're being called to do, this type of shadow work. These shadowy entities, literally, that you couldn't even see their face, are kind of begging to be integrated in a sense, or they're chanting something that you couldn't hear. They have a message for you that you're not consciously aware of, that you're not listening to. And so I would say that it's calling you to do some shadow work, or work on integrating and healing from past traumas, typically is what it would represent. I have no idea how I even got to him. I don't usually listen to music. Oh, interesting. Well, maybe listen to some music and see how that makes you feel, and see if it brings up any kind of unresolved emotional concerns within yourself that you can explore, and you could maybe do some shadow work on that to get towards where you're trying to get to. Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Amy asks, have you had any success with using lucid dream herbs such as mugwort? And do you set the intent to dream lucidly before sleep, or do you just come to the realization that you're dreaming within the dream? I haven't used mugwort in particular. I have experimented with some different things, but nothing that was particularly effective, other than um, what I found to be especially effective at assisting the achievement of a lucid dream is vitamin B6 complex. Now, I'm not sure which component of it. I used to know, because other people have expressed this as well. But one of the B vitamins is either B6 or B12. Um, helps give you a more vivid dreams, which can be conducive to achieving lucidity. And so I try and maintain good levels of B vitamins. I try not to be deficient in B vitamins in my system, and that I feel helps. Now there's kind of an anti herb that um, some people utilize quite frequently, and that would be cannabis. And that is actually a suppressant of REM sleep. And REM sleep is a rapid eye movement phase of sleep where you're more likely to have vivid dreams. And the more vivid a dream is, the more easily it tends to be to recognize that it's a dream. So if you abstain from cannabis, that is a huge benefit in your lucid dreaming practice. I hear people say how sometimes they say they have crazy dreams when they utilize cannabis, but the science goes against that. It may be a one-off, or it may be that the dream was so powerful that you had it anyways. But I would say if you are serious about lucid dreaming, just don't utilize cannabis at all. Just abstain completely from it. Now, if you have to use it for medicinal purposes, or it's preferable to utilize that rather than some sort of hardcore pharmaceutical, then by all means, you do what you need to do. But one thing you can do is you can abstain for periods of time, like take breaks from it. And during those breaks, when the THC, the most active component within cannabis, leaves your system, as it's leaving your system, you will experience REM rebound, which is your body kind of compensating for the suppression of REM sleep, and it'll give you extra REM. It's like, now's my chance, and it gives you extra intense REM sleep, which again is conducive to lucid dreaming. So if you do have to, but if you don't have to, if you don't have any legitimate reason to utilize cannabis, I would say just completely abstain. And you're going to have more dreams that you remember. You're going to have better dream recall. You're going to have more intense dreams when you do dream. and you're going to be a lot more likely to recognize that you're dreaming within the lucid dream if you just completely abstain from cannabis 100% of the time, or at least 100% of the time is ideal, because that's the best way to ensure a better chance at getting lucid dream. And yeah, I do set an intention to have a lucid dream before bed, and that's referred to typically as autosuggestion. And you can make that autosuggestion more powerful by utilizing self-hypnosis to get yourself into a suggestible state, is what they refer to it in the hypnosis community. And that's basically a light trance. If you were to talk about it scientifically, then it would be when your brain waves that are being produced in your brain are predominantly alpha frequency band waves, or lower. And by lower I mean slower. And those, if you can get your mind into an alpha or slower brainwave state, and then give the autosuggestion while you're in that light trance or even deep trance, then it's going to be more effective than if you just say it within the standard regular beta brainwave state, which is not trance. It's your normal everyday waking state. Although that's still effective as well, but it's more effective if you can utilize self-hypnosis as well, along with the autosuggestion. And then also there are supportive practices as well, where throughout the day, if you can make it a habit to do a state test, and we can do one now. So one of the things that you can try is you can look at something and read it. So I'm looking at that book here, the Tao Te Ching, and reading the subtitle on this particular copy of it, which just says The New Translation. And then I look away, and then I look back and I try and read it again, and it still says The New Translation to me. And so that to me says that there's a good chance that I'm having the waking experience, that I'm probably not asleep and dreaming. Although I can try it again with something else. There's something over here that I'm reading. Look back, and it's the same. So that's another reinforcement. Now, within dreams, text is notoriously unstable, so it's a good test. It's not foolproof. Sometimes you can read things in a dream and look away and look back, and it's the same, but most of the time you're going to see change in the words, or even in front of your eyes it can change. So yeah, autosuggestion is good. Also, make it a habit to periodically do state tests like we just did. Don't take my state test as yours. You have to do it yourself, and you have to do it as sincerely as you possibly can every time you do it, because otherwise, now the reason that you do it in the first place is because if you can build a habit out of it, in non-lucid dreams, in standard non-lucid dreams where you don't realize it's a dream, you typically act in habitual ways. And so if you can create the habit of doing state tests, then that habitual behavior will eventually work its way into your dreams, and you'll do a state test within a dream. Now, if you've been doing it insincerely, where you don't legitimately consider whether or not you could really be dreaming, asleep and dreaming, then you're just going to do the state test in a perfunctory manner in the dream as well, and probably conclude that you're not dreaming. And then you're going to wake up and you're like, oh, I did a state test in the dream, and I did it so poorly that I just concluded that I wasn't dreaming. And then you start to realize how tricky it can be, that how your mind can be so convincing of believing something that may not be true. And then it's a lot easier if once you've had that experience where you've been tricked, then you really start doing the state tests in a sincere manner. And the more sincere you can do it, the more effective it'll be. And then eventually within a dream you're going to do a state test. You don't always need to do a state test, but sometimes you just realize that you're dreaming. So it happens a lot of different ways. Sometimes I'll just randomly realize that I'm dreaming. Sometimes I'll do a state test within a dream and then conclude that I'm dreaming and realize I'm dreaming that way. And yeah, I utilize autosuggestion to help increase the chances of having a lucid dream. So there's a lot of different techniques and practices that stack, and each one of them increases the chance of having a lucid dream by a bit. And if you can do a bunch of them, then you're kind of stacking the deck in your favor, and you're going to have more frequent lucid dreams if you do all these different fundamental practices. And you have to keep them up too, typically. There are some people out there who have the gift of every single night when they fall asleep, they know they're dreaming. And that's not, I don't have that gift, unfortunately. But I do have the gift of randomly, throughout my life, even before I knew what a lucid dream was, before I was doing any kind of practices, I would randomly have them here and there. But then once I realized there were things you could do, I was able to increase the frequency of them, or the how often they would happen. Amy said, thank you for the reply to my question. I'm going to try the auto-suggestion technique. Yeah, do it and let me know how it goes, if it's effective or not. I'd like to know. I'd like to hear a follow-up on that. Give that a try and let me know. Anonymous Boss. I think this is a super chat that I didn't notice until now. Thanks again, Anonymous Boss. Again, I really appreciate any support that you have, that anybody gives to my channel here, whether it be financial, such as Indian Obelisk and Anonymous Boss have given tonight, or if you wanted to click like on the video, that also is a big help as well. So what's this one here? It says, I am pretty certain select people know who they are. They seem to be black mages from the depths of the astral realm. Have you ever had any contact with this type of entity? By the way, great live stream. Very grateful for what you share with this community. Well, I appreciate that, Anonymous Boss. Yeah, I've had encounters with shadowy figures for sure on the astral, but they come in such a variety that I couldn't really. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to begin. So definitely, I've encountered shadow forms and that sort of thing, but and black mages potentially. I definitely have encountered dream characters, for example, and astral entities that seemed to be independent conscious entities that knew enough about the nature of the realm that they were existing within, that they had ability to manipulate the realm in some sense. So you could, and they weren't necessarily friendly. So yeah, you could potentially refer to that as one of these shadowy black mages. So I've encountered that more than a couple times. And yeah, they can be some very interesting and powerful encounters for sure. Beyond Zebra said, how do we achieve that trance state? You know what? Let's talk about that in the private Novus Ordo Luciferi meeting. We're going to do that in just a couple minutes here. I'm going to wrap this up, this public live stream. If you wanted to jump in on that private Novus Ordo Luciferi members meeting. You can go to the link in the description box of this video, which goes to the Patreon page, and it'll unlock, I believe at this point it's the third post back, and it'll have a meeting link in there. If you join at the $5 or per month or above level, it'll unlock that post, and you can click that link in there in just a few minutes, and we can continue this discussion, and we can go over how to achieve that trance state in that private meeting. That's a great suggestion, Beyond Zebras. Yeah. So follow me there, and I'll talk to you in that private meeting. And everybody who has shown up to this evening to the live stream, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your support of the channel. Just being here and watching the channel is such a huge support to the channel. Everybody who participated in the live chat and asked questions or who gave comments, I really appreciate that. That gave me something to talk about and share with all of you. And anybody who's watching this video after the fact that wasn't able to catch it live, I do appreciate that you would watch this, and especially if you made it to the end. I certainly appreciate anybody who's watching this video after the fact as well. And we're going to have to wrap this up because I do have that live stream, or sorry, the private members meeting that we're going to have in just a few minutes here. And we do these live streams, this public live stream, as well as the private member meetings quite often. I try and do them every night that I'm able to. Although if I was to do it every single night, I would get burnt out, and I need to take care of myself. But as long as I'm being healthy and I have the ability to do so, I will do a live stream, a public live stream, and we'll follow it up with a private members meeting as many nights as I'm able to do so. So keep coming back. They're typically around this time, around 10:30 or so Eastern time, for the public live streams such as this one. And just if you hit the subscribe button with the notification bell, it will notify you when an upcoming live stream is going to happen. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.